Welcome to Fouts Boxing Theory. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at lessons learned from Santillan versus Rocha. And the first thing we're going to get into here is why is pivoting on the front foot the worst move in boxing? Now, there are a lot of coaches that are going to teach this in their footwork section. Just type in pivot, and every single coach who shows up teaching you to pivot on the front foot with all your weight on the front foot, just like that, they're horrible. These people are not people that have fought. These people don't know anything about boxing. And we're going to be taking a look at why. Now, here we go. We've got Rocha doing a great job here, feinting Santillan. As Santillan gets on the line, boom, controls him with the lead hand, gets him to interact, throws a shot over the top, lands a combination. And now he's going to ruin it by taking a step on the front foot, pivoting here, and getting smacked. Okay, it was a very, very, very common little move in the fight that Santillan was able to take advantage from Rocha. Some of it is because Rocha, and this one is in 20 seconds of the fight, at the beginning of the fight here, he tries to pivot on that front foot here. Again, pivoting and eating a shot for no reason. This is only 20 seconds into the fight. This may have been the biggest reason why Rocha actually lost the fight. Here he is trying to get under, trying to control here. He even did all the moves correctly, still got punched in the head with the right hand. Okay, he's still getting hit almost every time that he performs this move. Okay, so it's very, very, very important that you learn that this move here is not how you escape the corner. It's not how you escape the ropes. It's not how you do it. Here he is going to take a step on his front foot again. He's going to go for his pivot. Boom, gets smacked with a combination this time. Again, all of these things sending him farther and farther behind in terms of scoring simply because he doesn't know how to circle. He doesn't know how to do it properly. He doesn't know how to control space because this pivoting thing, this is not how it works, okay? It's a very, very common move, and it's even worse for people who are southpaws because normally if they fight an orthodox guy, they're going to get their foot outside the lead foot of their opponent. Their opponent is not going to want to bring their weight toward them, right? Because they have lead foot advantage, and if they move back onto the line, they're going to get hit. Now, here he is. He controls some space. He throws a punch. Boom. Gets a reaction from Santillan. Gets under that shot. Does the right thing. And instead of coming up with the counter, right? Number one, also, he's ducking below the waist. Okay. Very, very, very bad. You're not allowed to do this. Look, his head is also down at the floor. We're going to talk about this a little bit later. But when he comes up, he doesn't come up with any counters, any punches, any defense. He tries to pivot immediately on the front foot and gets punched in the head again. He even did everything up until that point very, very well. Correctly, even. And then he ruins it and allows his opponent to close the gap between him and in terms of scoring by giving away free punches, by putting himself in a position where he can't really defend himself. Real quick, I just want to insert this one here. This is another little lesson learned, okay? Santillan's going to get on the line here, and he's going to feint Rocha, and he feints him with the rear hand. And Santillan... and then Rocha tries to pull. He tries to bring his weight to the back foot so he can kind of get away from it. And then he comes back with his own left hand, okay? Even though Santillan did not throw that punch, Rocha was able to get the pull counter off by playing with that rhythm, making sure that if there was a punch, he wouldn't get hit. But the fact that there was... Santillan was not expecting anything to come off of his probe. He thought he was going to be able to control space. He wasn't expecting Rocha to throw a punch after it. It was still a very successful sequence for him. So even though he didn't get the punch he was looking for, he had the timing and he had the rhythm, he had the pace, and he was still able to score and land the punch with the trap that he set, even though Santillan sussed it out with a probe, right? Or a feint, rather. He didn't probe him. He gave him a feint. He just didn't take advantage of the fact that Rocha actually went, So sometimes you're still going to get paid off. Sometimes, even if you don't get the move you think you should make an attack, right? Now, this is right after the knockdown, which also came off of his front foot pivot, but I wanted to show this one. Here he is trying to pivot on the front foot, eating a shot, trying to pivot, trying to escape. Again, he's going to try to do the same thing, pivoting on the front foot. Boom. Throws a shot. Here he is. His weight's coming to the front foot. Here he is trying to pivot on the front foot. And he's just eating punch after punch after punch. Okay? Always in position to be hit by his opponent. Now, these guys are both southpaw. Okay? It's the same in orthodox versus orthodox. Okay? Again, in the open stance where one guy gets lead foot dominance, it's a lot easier to pivot on the front foot because the guy's probably not moving into your line from that position very often. Right? It's going to be mostly safe. But in the closed stance here, we can see how devastating of a move this has been for Rocha. Here he is trying to pivot on the front foot and escape again. Hook. Here he is pivoting on the front foot, pivoting on the front foot, pivoting on the front foot, pivoting on the front foot. and just keeps eating punches, okay? This is just a few small examples, but this is something that happened all throughout the fight. Here he is again. Look at him making an adjustment. Instead of pivoting on the front foot, now he has to hold. Right? That's the only way that this move works. Is if you manually control your opponent, you don't allow them to look at he was waiting. He was ready. He got him against the ropes, right? And he's like, okay, he's gonna do that stupid move because he doesn't have any other moves. He can't block punches, he can't do this, he can't do that. Now, on that note, I just wanted to point out that the other biggest takeaway, and we're gonna go back to the first round here, is that hand placement. Hand placement has a major, major, major impact on what types of punches are going to land with the least amount of effort. And in this fight, because Rocha kept his right hand down, he didn't really block punches, and Santillan had his hands up, ready to guard the line and interact and catch and block. Because of that, on average, it was just easier for him to score, harder for Rocha to score, and that meant that Santillan scored more and got a knockout. And here we're going to see, again, he just has to throw his rear hand. And again, Rocha is ducking below the waist. Look at his head, looking at the ground. We're going to talk about that in a second. Controlling him, boom, catches him. Again, no guard from Rocha. Again, look at his, and he doesn't even know where to keep his lead hand, right, in relation. So when this guy just gets to the line and starts throwing punches, he's just landing. He's just scoring punches, I want to say basically for free, okay? What clip is this? That's not a clip. Okay. Anyway, as far as, if I were to give Santillan a grade for the fight, I think he gets a C. He's not particularly skilled in any way. He's hard to fight. He comes forward. If he gets close to you, he can throw a lot of quick punches. But his ability to control space, his feinting and probing was not super high. He's tough to fight. Right, he's definitely going to be tough to fight, and he might be a bigger challenge for the division than we think he might. Number one, because he's southpaw. Number two, but the most emerging fighter in that division is Tim Tszyu. And Tim Tszyu's not a particularly big super middle or junior middleweight, super welterweight. He's not particularly big. Actually, in fact, he's quite small. He's 5'7". They have, there's like Devin Haney. All those guys are like, Ryan Garcia's 5'10". All these guys are way bigger than him. There's a video of Ryan Garcia standing next to Tim Tszyu, and he's way bigger than him. But that and the fact that he's actually taller as well, it's interesting because that also means that he's definitely going to probably have the size advantage, and that's the exact style that gave Kostya Tszyu his, not his first loss, right? I think Vince Phillips knocked him out before Ricky Hatton beat him. And here's the thing, this interesting thing is Ricky Hatton wasn't even necessarily winning the fight, and Kostya Tszyu quit, right? Taking so many punches, with that overwhelming style, right? Now, we did see, and Ricky Hatton's specialty was the leaping left hook, right? A southpaw 154-pound Mexican Ricky Hatton? No, not exactly. I don't think he's as, pound for pound as good of a puncher as Ricky Hatton. I don't think he's as explosive or as fast. But his guard is so much better. His guard is so much better than Ricky Hatton's. He's not as good exactly on the inside. And to be honest, here's the thing. I don't really rate Rocha. I know that he was a huge favorite in this fight, and I couldn't figure out why, to be honest. But I'm not sure, but I might have bet on Blair Cobbs to beat him. I might have put money on that because, and Blair Cobbs is like, he's all right, right? But Alexis Rocha is not really the test that we need to see how good a guy like Santillan is. But then again, if we have a guy like Tim Tszyu who's going to throw 10 punches around, 20 punches around, is that going to be the guy that tests a guy who's throwing as many and getting as close as Santillan, who wants to be as close on the inside? Now, I also don't know if he's going to fight southpaws or if he's going to fight orthodox fighters as well, because I studied him versus southpaws. So we'll see. Maybe he's a little bit slower. Maybe he's a little bit, more measured. Okay. Anyway, don't pivot on the front foot. Sometimes your traps are going to work even if you don't get the reaction that you wanted. And keep your hands up, guys. Guard the line. Understand that there's no room in boxing. Oh, where's that clip at? I have one more clip I did need to talk to you guys about. The thing it cut out, but this was the punch back behind the head. That's what I was going to get to. The last thing that we want to talk about is fighters ducking below the waist, right? Fighters ducking below the waist. And putting their head and their face to the floor. Actually, I have this other fight over here. I don't know exactly when it happened in this fight, McGrail versus Fran Mendoza, which is, and if you guys are interested on Patreon, I did a full fight film study on this because I did some boxing betting on that. I also did some boxing betting on Santillan. And there's a scene where Peter McGrail puts his head down, ducks and puts his chin on his chest and puts his head down, and he smashes the top of his head into Fran Mendoza's face, and they blame Fran Mendoza. Again, all that stuff is the same exact thing as ducking below the waist. When you duck below the waist, right? When you duck below the waist and you put your face, your eyeballs to the ground, right? You're giving your opponent the top of your head, the hardest part of your head. Okay? I know people who are, I grew up and when I was getting into boxing, this guy was like, oh, he met me and like he saw like, oh, I box and this and that, and he was like real inspired to like try to help me and like train with me. And I asked him a little bit about his story, and he's like, yeah, man, well, we went to the Olympic trials and this and that. And the guy that I was fighting, he kept ducking his head, and I was a pretty power puncher and this and that. And I punched him on the top of the head, and I broke one of the carpals in my hand, and I never fought again. They put some screws in there, and then I never put on any gloves again. They told me I couldn't punch anymore. And we got Fran Mendoza getting headbutted by a guy who ducks his head. Right? What's the first thing? The first thing they tell you in the amateurs in your first fight, especially if they know it's your first fight. As soon as that first punch comes at you and you duck your head down like that, they tell you, don't duck your head. Don't do it. Okay? It's dangerous. And here, Fran Mendoza gets headbutted. In the other fight, Alexis Rocha, instead of eating a punch on his face, right? Like he should. He was out of position. He was outboxed. He was outmaneuvered. It's time for his opponent to get paid off because his opponent is hurt, right? It's time for Giovanni to get paid off. But he turns his head and he gets a 10-second break because he's the favorite for punching in the back of the head. It's the same thing with Volk and Islam. People saying, oh, blah, blah, blah. Connor said it best. The fight's almost over, okay? The guy's weaseling his way out. If you turn your head away from your opponent and your opponent punches you in the back of the head, you are submitting. It is illegal. If you have to do that, you are asking for a break. You should get a standing 8 count. Oh, you turned your back against your opponent. You needed a break, standing 8 count. You lose a point for that, right? Give them the 10 seconds, but take the goddamn point. Okay? Peter McGrail. Okay, I bet against this kid because he fucking sucks. He's not very good. Okay? He has no guard. He's kind of fast. He wastes too much energy. His punching power is crap. He couldn't even hurt a 5'3" guy who's like half his size. He got hurt by that guy, in fact, in the first round. I was like, damn, man, maybe I'm going to make my money. But if in the middle of a fight you have to duck in order to avoid taking punches, you have to start ducking your head. Right? When Mike Tyson would duck below the waist, a lot of the times his eyes were still on his opponent. He's in a deep squat. He's not doing toe touchers. He's not doing cherry pickers. He's squatting. And his head is up. I know sometimes he cheat too, right? But anyway, if you turn your back on your opponent, you should get a standing 8 count. if you're turning your head away from your opponent, if you're ducking below the waist, if you're doing that stuff, if you signal by breaking the rules that you need a break, take your break. Take that standing 8 count, but lose a point. Now, if we go back and we analyze Floyd Mayweather's career and we look at every single time that he did that and we cost him a point in every single round that he did it, by the end of the fight, you know how most 120, 108. Do you think Mayweather would have any points left? Not just like, would he still win and come out ahead on rounds? You give him the 10 points for winning the round, you minus 6 points for ducking below the waist, and he gets 4 points for that. 4 points for a win. The guy got 9 for losing. He's going to lose every fight by 60 points. Anyway, just some philosophy, just some theory. As fighters get better and better, they get faster, stronger, and hit harder and all that stuff. These rules and stuff, in some places they're going to become more important, in some places they're going to be less important. It won't even matter if you're ducking below the waist and cheating, because people are going to be so fast and hitting so hard. And if you have to move your head so far off the line, by the time that you get back, you'll have eaten 3 punches. You know, people aren't that good yet, but check out the Fouts Boxing Combat System. See how you can get on your way.